The biggest and most prestigious motor races in the world tend to be ones with an awful lot of history, or ones that began back when colour television was still around at least 30 years away from being widely available. The Indy 500 began in 1911, the Monaco Grand Prix began in 1929, Le Mans 24 Hours 1923, and the Daytona 500 in 1959. It's very rare in any sport, let alone motor racing, to create an event/race with the same sort of grandeur as those iconic events in the 21st century, with the exception of one race, which, if you've seen the title of the video, then you probably know what it is. The Bathurst 12 Hours has grown enormously in popularity over recent years, with the event getting larger and larger as the years have gone on. And whilst the recent pandemic did put a small hiatus on the event, the race is still just as popular as it was before, with 2023's event looking to get things a step back in the right direction in terms of larger car counts. However, despite it being a relatively new inclusion amongst the world of landmark motor races, its history as an event is quite fascinating. Bathurst holds another prestigious motor race with a far longer history than the 12-hour, known as the Bathurst 1000. Nowadays, the 1000 is a battle over 161 laps in monstrous V8 saloon/muscle cars. However, that event began in 1963, using cars which weren't far off what you buy in your local Aussie car dealer showroom. But as the years went on, the cars became further and further detached from the near production spec cars that were taking on the grueling mountain. By the late 80s, early 90s, the cars were basically Group A touring cars. Whilst they'd still classify as very competent win on Sunday, sell on Monday style of machines, it was a far cry from the near-stock Minis and co that used to compete in the 1000 back in the 60s. Someone saw this and thought that an event should be set up to cater for the same type of car regulations as the ones back in the 60s, just with more modern machinery. That someone was a former competitor of the 1000, Vincent Tesoriero. The idea of a 12-hour race came to fruition, and once a sponsor had been found, the Bathurst 12 Hours began in 1991. Despite the length of the event, the cars proved reliable. 20 of the 24 entries finished the race, with the event being won by Peter Fitzgerald, Alan Grice and Nigel Ariel in a Toyota Supra. Then, in 1992, the event had an influx of entries. 55 cars would start the race, 39 would finish. There was also manufacturer interest in this event, with company-backed efforts, one of which was by eventual winners Mazda. However, we also had a car entered by Saab of Australia. Still miss Saab. The event was starting to incur rising costs, so the event was moved to a new location in 1995, Eastern Creek, known nowadays as Sydney Motorsport Park. But that didn't end up being a particular success. The grid was smaller, and plus, the track isn't as demanding of a test of a car or driver as Bathurst. The event would not return for 1996. So, not exactly a glowing start to this race's history. A new endurance-style event would return to Bathurst with similar car regulations, but would include entry-level GT cars in this race. And this time, it would be run over 24 hours. Unfortunately, after being created in 2002, the event would last until 2003, before it was cancelled again. The reason? Rising costs. Again. It seems as though, unsurprisingly, when you close down the public roads for a long time, it costs quite a lot of money to do. However, another crack of it was made in 2007, this time back to the 12-hour format and the same regulations in terms of cars with the production-based vehicles. Third time lucky, I suppose. That race had a notable inclusion of a Subaru being driven in part by then Works Subaru World Rally driver Chris Atkinson. The event was starting to gain slightly greater notoriety across the global motorsport eyeballs, with it starting to become a signature event. Which, considering the following 12-hour races had notable moments such as a sick-inducing roll by Len Cave, who remarkably got out of this crash under his own power, and also a tree falling onto the circuit, then it's easy to see why. Also, I know this shot has been viewed over 1 million times by now, but I still can't believe this image. I mean, it's a tree across the circuit, for crying out loud. But for 2011, the event organisers would make a decision that would shape how the event is ran today. GT3 cars would be allowed on the mountain, a move to try and further increase the global appeal of this race, as well as hoping to include some of the best GT3 teams around into the race. This though did come with a risk. While production cars would be allowed to enter, several teams were, shall we say, displeased with the decision, as it meant that they wouldn't be able to fight for overall victories anymore. So the grid went from 42 to 26 cars as a result. This was therefore make or break for the event. Would enough GT entries and the resulting worldwide attention it garnered from this be enough to secure its long-term future? Well, seeing the title of the video, I think you know what the answer to that one is. After 2012 had 27 entries, 2 of which didn't make the start, 2013 had a much healthier 50 entries. Not only that, but it was an awesome race as well, with drivers having to deal with a torrential rain shower at the top of the mountain, on dry tyres, and near enough constant drama throughout. By around 2015, nearly all the production-based cars were no longer in the race, and it wouldn't be much longer before the whole field was in some form or another GT-based. In 2015, 50% of the Bathurst 12 Hours event was bought by Supercars Events, the company that owns the V8 Supercars. In turn, the 2016 event would form part of the newly created Intercontinental GT Challenge, a series organised by the Stefan Rattel organisation, which runs the GT World Challenge Championships. This led to an even greater increase in manufacturer support for the event, along with bringing more star-studded drivers and teams to the event. From that point on, the Bathurst 12 Hours has gone from strength to strength. The 2017 event saw a thrilling conclusion to the race, where Shane van Gisbergen was in the lead with 40 minutes left on the clock in the Mercedes. However, Jamie Whincup produced an astonishingly bold and daring move on Conrad Straight to grab the lead away in the Ferrari. Shane hit the back of an AM-class Porsche and sent it into the wall. After receiving a penalty, Shane then made a mistake coming down the S's, colliding with the wall, and would end up not finishing the race. In response, one of his co-drivers, Maro Engel, was enraged. The race has continued to grow ever since, including the repair bill, which, when you see the amount of large crashes this race has had in recent years, isn't surprising to see. However, one of the reasons races like the Indy 500, Le Mans 24 Hours are so iconic is that sense of danger, and how on your game you have to be just to get round the circuit quickly. The 2021 race was cancelled due to the pandemic, whilst 2022 was delayed to May instead of the usual early February time slot, again due to travel concerns caused by the pandemic, which meant far fewer international teams took part in the event. But the upcoming Bathurst 12 Hours is heading back in the right direction. 26 entries with greater international representation, and all the signs to suggest 2024 will be even stronger. This race is a modern classic. In my opinion, racing's only modern classic. Although, feel free to disagree. It's gained a global recognition for being a race that's demanding on drivers and is an out-and-out car destroyer, even for modern machinery. However, in terms of the cars competing, it's a far cry from the near production-based vehicles that first competed. Whilst I feel this was necessary for the event to gain greater worldwide reputation, it is somewhat sad that the original concept of this race went away over time, or just simply didn't work out. However, at least one constant this race has had is the start time. The Bathurst Regional Council wasn't content with a 9 AM to 9 PM time slot for 1991, so 5:15 AM to 5:15 PM was its time slot. The 2023 race will start at 5:45 AM and end at 5:45 PM. Okay, other than the 12-hour format, it's pretty much an entirely new race. But I don't think anyone would change it in its current guise though. That, however, is going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Do you think any other races out there are modern classics? Say what you think in the comment section. However, until the next video, enjoy the rest of your day.